Hello and welcome to the Film Pulse Podcast. This is episode number 396. My name's Adam Patterson. With me today we got Kevin Rakestraw. Hey, Kevin.
Hi.
This week on the show, we'll be taking a trip to Park City and covering Strawberry Mansion, a film that's premiering at this year's Sundance Film Festival, which is happening virtually and in person right now. We'll also be going over some we're watching on the watch list and going over this week's new releases on VOD and Blu-ray. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Please remember to review us on iTunes if you get a moment. That would be super helpful. Big, exciting announcement right at the top of the show here. We are bringing back Ryan Watches a Movie.
Oh, yeah.
Its triumphant return will be happening very soon. So I'm not going to we haven't recorded it yet. So I'm not going to throw out a date just yet because you know how these things are with Ryan. They could fall through at a moment's notice.
Real close. Feels real close.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. It should be happening. So stay tuned. Next week's episode of this show is probably when I'll announce the date. So I'm hoping that we can record it this week and then release it next week. That's the goal. So stay tuned for that. With that being said, I think we can dive into our review. Again, we're talking about Strawberry Mansion. Now, this premiered a couple days ago at the Sundance Film Festival, where I think it's been met with a pretty positive reception so far. The way that the Sundance is happening this year is that there's a premiere screening, which will happen, and then there's one secondary screening. So two screenings. Unfortunately, both of those have happened for this movie, so if you didn't get a chance to see it, you're probably going to have to wait a little bit, but I think that it's a safe bet to assume that this movie is going to get picked up by someone, if it hasn't been already, and hopefully released sometime this year. This is directed by Kentucker, Audley, and Albert Birney. I have a synopsis here. In a future where the government records dreams and taxes them, a dream auditor gets caught up in the dreams of an aging eccentric. Kevin, this is a movie that seems right up your alley. This is firing on all Kevin cylinders. So we'll start it with you. What were your initial impressions of Strawberry Mansion?
It was everything I wanted it to be.
Yeah, I imagine so. If you could put a Kevin movie, if you can define a Kevin movie, it would just be Strawberry Mansion, I think. This is right up there.
It's pretty close. Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, it pretty much just comes down to anything that Albert Birney makes as a filmmaker. It feels like it's tailor-made for me. I've liked everything he's ever done.
Well, you're a big Audley guy too. You're a fan of. You see, if I remember correctly, you're a fan of pretty much everything he does, and you're a big No Budge supporter too.
Correct. And a big-time Birney fan. And then those two guys got together for Silvio, which was great. And now they're back together again for Strawberry Mansion, which I think this movie, the thing that gets me, and pretty much always gets me with his films, is there's so much creativity and DIY work in terms of camera trickery, set design, art direction, production design, all of these things show up in these movies, whether it's Silvio, the Beast Pageant, a number of things. Here, it just looks like it's even more and it's bigger. There's a lot more going on.
I mean, when you look at this movie, when you look at what the premise is and what's encompassed in this movie, it's very ambitious. This is probably the most ambitious film that these two guys have done, either in collaboration or individually. And the outcome, the result, is pretty incredible. They did such an incredible job. I mean, when you have these two extremely talented people together, and they just, the fact that they had this script that was probably on paper, when you read it, you're just like, how can they possibly make that? And then just for them to just be like, hey, let's just figure out how to do it. Let's figure out how to turn these people's faces into comets and like create all of these very intricate sets and costumes and like have wolf people and mouse people and a frog playing a saxophone and like all of these kind of really out there visuals, and the fact that they were just like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure out how to do it. And they did it. And it looks amazing. Like,
it looks so good.
Like all of the effects work, all of the production design, all of that stuff looks so incredible. It has, if you're not familiar like with Albert Birney's style, I think it's safe to compare him to like early Michel Gondry stuff, where he just has this very kind of DIY mentality, and everything looks very handcrafted and just oozing with creativity. So I think that if you're into the early stuff of Michel Gondry, I think that you'll latch on to a lot of what Albert Birney's doing right now.
Yeah. And I like with the Sundance screening, you know, you get the little filmmaker intro. And he was essentially talking about, you know, on a Friday you go in to the Hollywood Video or the Blockbuster, and, you know, you have all these VHS tapes up there on the wall and you're checking them all out. And, you know, the kind of the cliches that, you know, they take you to a different world and all that. And that's what I like about his movies so much, is I think he does that incredibly well, to the point where there's so much creativity, and he's able, with his team, you know, all the people that he's working with, he's able to create so many different things that, honestly, like at the beginning of this movie, from the outset, where Kentucker Audley is in this completely like red room, everything's, you know, this like pinkish red, and you're just like, okay, they can probably create anything, and who knows what the hell I'm going to see over the course of the next hour and a half. I could literally see anything. And I just love how he taps into that, like that childish creativity and imagination.
The thing that kind of strikes me, and I think that maybe something that, at least for me as a viewer, like whenever I go into a movie that I know is dealing with like dream logic, and a lot of the movie takes place within the world of dreams, I'm just like, I don't know. Like it's typically not for me, because I think that a lot of movies lean too heavily into that, like dream logic, dream world type of stuff, and it all feels so inconsequential to me because I know that it's all just a dream. But in this movie, I think that the directors craft this really great balance where they don't lean too heavily. They don't go too far overboard into the dream world. It's just enough. It's just enough to get the point across before they bring it back into, you know, reality and have Kentucker Audley's character wake up from his slumber or come out of the little dream viewing contraption that he has. So I think that they craft a really great balance. I mean, I loved all the dream sequence stuff. I thought it was completely on point, but they didn't overdo it either. They didn't go too far down the rabbit hole. In the Q&A, they say that they actually had 30 more minutes of content filmed for this movie that they ended up cutting, and it was all like dream sequence stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided they designed it that way so that they could sort of make changes in editing to see what fit best. But in the end, yeah, they ended up getting rid of about 30 minutes of the dream stuff.
And just a lot of this, you know, a lot of the production design, the props and the sets, you know, they all have a very handmade quality to them. But there's also some stuff that's just really, really phenomenal that I thought was kind of surprising. In particular, the mask work.
Oh my God.
The wolf mask and the rat mask. Like, holy shit.
The rat masks and wolf masks look absolutely incredible. Like, they look really
high-end stuff.
Really impressive. Like, this is not we just talked about the sort of DIY, like handmade, like nature of it, and that kind of makes you think like, oh, everything kind of looks like maybe like paper crafty or like using found objects to create different things. And yeah, there's some of that in there too. But when you see these masks, they look real. Like they look like the wolf mask in particular, how it moves, looks so impressive.
Yeah.
So
very ridiculous.
And they employ like a lot of different methods. Like there's stop motion in here. There's all kinds of different like playing with perspective and stuff like that. And they do a lot to achieve the different, visual pieces of flair that we have in this movie. And it's all incredibly creative and impressive. So certainly that is like the number one takeaway from this movie, is that it is just a visual feast.
It's so much fun.
And then you fold that into the score by Dan Deacon, which is completely complements every moment of the movie. It's an incredible score, and the cinematography is incredible too. I don't know, was this shot on 16 millimeter? It looks like it is.
I think so.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. It looks like 16 millimeters. It's got that really wonderful kind of film grain look to it, and that I think also complements it. And then you have the world building. That's another big thing. Is like, this isn't a movie that completely takes place in this like, farcical dream world. A lot of it is grounded in sort of a near future. I think it's like 2030 something that it takes place. And
yeah, 2035.
2035.
Getting your dreams audited, getting them taxed.
Yeah.
Which I like that too, the way that they built that.
Sure. I mean, that's not an entirely new concept. I mean, we've seen movies before that deal with, the increasing corporatization of everything, even in like our dreams and stuff. I know that I've seen that concept in at least 2 other movies or shows where dreams are maybe not taxed, but advertisers are featured in dreams.
Yeah, which is really nice the way that it's done here, because it's not like they don't get lost, in the weeds with it. Like they don't try and get too technical with like the whole entire process. I like that it's pretty simple, that he's inside the dreams. You can tell he's inside someone else's dreams, auditing, he's taking inventory. And I just like how the little circle comes up, and like what you're getting taxed on is what's in your dream. If you have an expensive violin in your dream, you owe 13 cents. And that's like kind of as deep as they go, which I appreciate, is they don't get too stuck on like the logistics of it.
No, I like any movie that contains those sort of lo-fi sci-fi elements. One that immediately comes to mind is Lapsus, which comes out in a couple weeks actually, where it takes place in this slightly futuristic world where you see all these elements that we don't have right now in real life, but A, we can see that happening in the future, and B, it's developed in such a way that they don't feel the need to give us some kind of like exposition dump on just how it works. We see it on screen and we can believe that it works without knowing the specific nuts and bolts of how it's done.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that. All the world building stuff I think is great. I think that it is an inherently fascinating world, and especially how like they, like that when they first started recording everybody's dreams and taxing them, everything was on VHS, and then now they upgraded to this like, smaller SD card style thing. In fact, it looked like it looked like a Fitbit. And there's like a little charger for the Fitbit, and I'm pretty sure that's what that was. It looked like a Fitbit charger.
I wouldn't be surprised. And another thing that I'm not 100% sure of, but I know a couple elements in this movie I've seen before in terms of Albert Birney's other films. it seemed like there's characters and bits and pieces from all of his other work that came prior. So I like that little aspect of it.
Yeah, they did say in the Q&A that there's lots of little Easter eggs in there. And I like the idea of him making this kind of shared universe with his movies. I think that would be cool. See like Silvio pop up there.
Yeah. There looked like there was a guy that was what was it? Was his name Herbert?
Yeah, the Tux and Vanny character?
Yeah. Or no, for the Silvio, the little Silvio, he had that hand puppet. That
guy. Yeah, I thought that was Tux and Fanny. But yeah, you're right. It was the Silvio world.
I love it. And there was the antler guy was from Beast Pageant. And I think I remember the grass man being from Beast Pageant as well, but I could be wrong.
I like when the grass man turned into like the VHS tape man.
Yeah, and I think that might have been in Beast Pageant too. I like the blue demon. I mean, there's just so many things in this that.
Yeah, the way that the real world would bleed into the dream world, and then there's like one scene where he's viewing one of the recorded dreams, and he gets knocked out. So he's still in that dream, but then he enters his own dream, and I thought that was a really cool idea. There's just a lot of really great stuff in this. It doesn't get, one of my biggest concerns was that it would go too far into the weeds with the dream world stuff, and that I would start to get pulled out. I would start to get bored, because that's, for whatever reason, that's what tends to happen with me in movies that go into dream worlds like really deep. And that never happened. It always kept me engaged, and the dream worlds were interesting enough and entertaining enough, and just fun enough.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue a lot of times with people doing dream world stuff is they don't necessarily take full advantage of the fact that you can do whatever you want. Like, I think that's the problem, and a lot of times when they do dream world stuff is like they just don't have the imagination or the creativity for it. Where here, it's literally like anything could happen, and they can make anything, and it can be fun as hell. And I like that that's essentially what they do, is whether they're in a dream, he's stuck in his dream, or he's unconscious and he's moving between dreams and whatever. It's just they're always coming up with fresh, inventive things to do within those worlds that makes you feel like, okay, this is warranted to be in dreams because we get to do this stuff.
Overall, I had a really great time with it. I would highly recommend it. I think that this could be the movie that completely breaks Albert Birney out into the mainstream. It's still, I think, artful enough that it won't like. I mean, it's still within that kind of quirky indie art house category, but I think that as far as like a maturity in his filmmaking goes, that this is his most mature film yet, and I think that it's only a matter of time before he hits it big. I could see someone like Disney, snatching him up or something.
I hope not. I like seeing what he can do with the small budget, because I mean, from what I've seen now between this, Silvio, the Beast Pageant, Tux and Fanny, all those things, he can do a lot, and it's far more exciting than what big budget people do, and spend their money with.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. That maybe we've seen it before where directors are able to do more things when they're limited. When it's I think a good example is like when you look at some of these directors that go to Netflix and they just get like a blank check and they can do whatever they want, and it ends up being something that's like, it could be really amazing. It could be The Irishman, or it could be like something not so great. So
it's just so. That is always odd that like you get that blank check and you just come up with like the most mundane thing. And it's like, really, this is what you wanted to do with your blank check?
yeah, I mean there might be more to it than that, but that's certainly the way it seems, at least. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and give Strawberry Mansion a score. What are you going to give it out of 10?
I'm going to give it an 8.5, maybe. I don't know, 8.
I'm sitting at an 8 on this one as well. I highly recommend it. I think that if you saw Silvio and you liked the tone and the style of Silvio, that you're probably going to love this one. Can't wait for everybody to see it. I saw a couple other Sundance titles so far. I'm limiting the number of Sundance movies I see this year. I have very little time, but I did catch a couple other things, and I have a couple other things on my list that I'll be seeing. One is Superior. This is directed by Aaron Vasilopoulos. This is another movie that's shot on 16 millimeter. Actually, it's an adaptation of, or it's actually more of a sequel of sorts of a short film that she made in 2015. It stars Alessandra and Anna Marie Mesa. They're twins, and it just sort of tells the story about these two young women growing up. They both lead very different lives, even though they're identical twins, and one of them ends up being on the run from an abusive husband, and there is some drama that ensues from there. I quite liked it. I thought that it was maybe a little bit too long. It says 97 minutes on Letterboxd, but I feel like it was longer than that. It felt longer. I could be wrong, but yeah, which I think is a problem that happens with a lot of short films that later get adapted into a feature. It's just that they tend to like overcompensate or something, and it ends up being
padded out.
Yeah. But overall, I enjoyed it. I thought that it takes place in the 80s, so it takes place in 1987. So that, coupled with the fact that it's shot on 16 millimeter, and they don't overdo the 80s stuff. It's very understated. Now, I will say that, and again, this is like such a nitpick, but it still bothers me. There's like a couple scenes where they go into grocery stores, and the items on the shelf are clearly modern items. And like modern packaging too, which like kind of pulls you out of it a little bit. But they did a good job with everything else. Like everything else does look pretty of the era. But yeah, so maybe a light recommend for Superior.
Okay, still pretty excited for this.
I think you'll like it. I don't think you're gonna love it or anything.
Okay, all right. I watched Calm with Horses, directed by Nick Rowland. Came out a couple years back. This is available on Netflix now. This is the one starring Barry. What's his last name? Barry Keoghan. First off, you got two great things going on here. That's the Irish landscapes, just absolutely stunning. Just a great setting. Cosmo Jarvis gives a wonderful performance, but everything else is just extremely well-worn territory. It's a crime family, the Devers family. They have a drug dealing business in Ireland, and of course they kind of own the town or whatever. And Cosmo Jarvis is he's the muscle. His name is Arm. He's a former boxer. And now he works for them, and he's kind of stuck being the muscle, beating people up and whatnot. One of his jobs is that he's got to kill someone, but he can't do it. And you can guess what happens. Things start to fall apart. I mean, it's just an incredibly predictable film from beginning to end. I mean, I feel like I've seen this type of movie, I don't know how many times in my life. So I just kind of knew everything, it's just far too familiar. But I get the Cosmo Jarvis performance made this watchable. It made it that I was able to stick through it to the end. Because if he wasn't delivering what he's delivering here, I probably would have just turned this off.
Oh, that sucks. I was actually somewhat interested in this one.
Yeah, I was pretty excited for this. But like as soon as like the pieces kind of like were introduced and set into place in the beginning of the movie, I was just like, oh boy, I have a feeling that this is going to be like all those other films that I've seen. And I kind of held out hope that I would be proven wrong, but unfortunately I wasn't.
Okay. It looks like you still gave it a 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd. So
yeah, and that was the initial where I was still kind of riding high on that performance.
Okay.
And I'm kind of thinking now, and I'm like, well,
cooled on it.
Yeah, like that performance is good. I would get like he does a great job here, but I don't know about 3 stars.
Okay, fair enough. I saw a movie called Knocking. This is directed by Frida Kempf. This is another Sundance movie. It's a Swedish film. It's about a woman she's in an institution and she gets released from the institution and she gets a new apartment. And as she moves into this new apartment, she begins to hear a knocking on her ceiling. Mm-hmm. And she begins to believe that there is someone who needs help. And that's what the knocking is. And so the whole movie is is she crazy? Is it all in her head type of thing? Mm-hmm. And there's so much of that happens in this movie that you're just like, what is going on here? Like, just reveal it, for God's sake. We were just talking about this, last week with Saint Maud, and this movie does the same thing where everybody thinks she's crazy, and the audience thinks. I mean, we don't know. We don't know if she's crazy or not. But then, there's some stuff happens, and by the end, when it happens, you're just like, okay, what the fuck was this other thing about? And like, I'm reading that like there's a lot of gaslighting in this movie, and I completely agree with some of the other people on Letterboxd who'd mentioned the ridiculous amount of gaslighting that happens in this movie, because some of it makes absolutely zero sense whatsoever. Like when you look at it, and I can't give anything away, but when you look at it, you're just like, that makes no sense. It makes no sense. So I'm sorry, I can't recommend Knocking. I think that it has some really interesting moments to it. I think that it starts off promising, but man, it just doesn't work. Just doesn't work.
Yeah, I think I'm done with those movies for a bit. I think I'm gonna put a moratorium on those.
I didn't really know it was like that going into it. I probably
that's what I mean. I appreciate you letting me know.
Yeah,
so I can avoid it. I saw The Devil's Reign from 1975, which boasts a tagline of absolutely the most incredible ending of any motion picture ever.
All right. I mean, as of 1975.
Yes, the most incredible ending. So, as you can imagine, from the outset, I am absolutely amped to see how this thing plays out at the end. I'm just waiting for the ending. But first, I will say that it's got a really interesting structure to it, because the way that this movie starts out is like we're just thrown into the middle of this like big time thunderstorm, just absolute downpour in the desert, just lightning, wind, all this stuff is going on. We're not entirely sure what the hell is happening. Like someone's missing, apparently. And then William Shatner comes home and you find out that he's been looking for his dad. His dad's missing. Okay. So you're getting like little bits piecemeal, but you're actually just like thrown into it, like right in the middle of like something that's happening or it's going on. Someone wants a book. Shatner's trying to find his dad. His dad's missing. His dad shows up a little bit later. He has no eyes. He has a wax face. He's also talking about a book. And then he just melts in the rain. Just completely melts. A lot of bubbling, frothing. Like the effects that go into these masks that these guys wear are pretty incredible. Because all their eyes are hollowed out. They all have wax faces. And the devil's rain melt. So that's what you find out, is that Ernest Borgnine he's been living for like 600 years, and he's like top dog in the Church of Satan, and he wants his book back. So Shatner goes to a ghost town, ends up getting into a fight with Ernest Borgnine, he plays a guy named Corbus. And it's funny because Shatner shows up and he's like, Corbus, I'm going to destroy you because I have this emblem, this amulet that I'm wearing. You can't hurt me. And Corbus, like, literally destroys him within, like, 5 minutes. Just, Shatner's done. Soul stolen, everything. Just becomes a hollow shell of a man. Just like that. This also has Tom Skerritt in it. He plays Shatner's brother that comes later to try and, help out. This is John Travolta's first role in a movie, which also, according to trivia, that this is where he got into Scientology because of Joan Prather. Gave him a Dianetics book. So this is where it all started, Devil's Reign. And the ending is pretty incredible. It is the entire congregation of the Church of Satan, all their wax faces, masks, melting in a torrential rainstorm. Just moaning, a lot of frothing, just pastel goop pouring out of eyes, and they're just having an awful time. And it's pretty ridiculous.
I mean, I'm definitely gonna have to add this to my.
It's on Amazon Prime. Ernest Borgnine does turn into like a devil goat.
Yeah, well, this is already on my watch list, so.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah, we're definitely on there. I did a little bit of an Indonesian horror double feature this weekend with The Queen of Black Magic, which is directed by Kimo Stamboel, and he's one half of the Mo brothers. You have your Kimo and Timo, and they're pretty much like the main two dudes in Indonesian horror. They're sort of the guys who kicked off that kind of renaissance of Indonesian horror that's been popping up. And then you have another guy, Joko Anwar, who is another huge influencer in that space of Indonesian horror. So I saw his movie Impetigore. Now Joko Anwar wrote and directed Impetigore, and he wrote the Queen of Black Magic. Now the Queen of Black Magic is actually it's inspired by a film of the same name. I can't remember what year the original one came out. It was like in the 60s or maybe early 70s that the original. I never saw it, but it's sort of inspired by that. In fact, in the ending credits of this movie, they have like stills from the original movie, which I thought was kind of a nice little touch. But starting with the Queen of Black Magic, this came out on Shudder this weekend, and it's about a family who the dad in the family was raised in this orphanage, and the sort of patriarch of the orphanage, the guy who ran the place, is dying. So he gets a letter saying that, this guy's dying, and if you want to say goodbye, come to the orphanage this weekend. So he goes, and then all of the other people who the kids who he grew up with in the orphanage come back as well to pay their respects and say goodbye. And as it turns out, there is a woman who is conjuring up some black magic here and starts killing them and traps them there. So like at one point they try to leave, and it's just like a circle. So they just end up driving in circles. So they can't get out. They're trapped there. And the stuff that this person is doing is absolutely insane and horrific. Like, she's making centipedes freaking go into people and explode out of their eye sockets, and like forcing people to staple their mouths shut, and it just goes on and on from there. It is really gory, really disturbing. I loved where it went. It turned out that it was like way deeper. I mean, it is a revenge story like most of these movies, but there was a little bit more depth than what I'm used to seeing in these types of movies. So I appreciated that, and the effects work was awesome. Like, all of the centipede stuff was really gross, and it wasn't just centipedes, but like it's other bugs too. And there's this one scene when these little, like, they almost look like pill bugs or something. I don't know how, like, what they actually were, but there was like thousands of them, and they burst out of someone's back. But before they burst out of their back, you could see like all of these bumps just appeared, and it's these like red bumps. And anybody who has tryptophobia will absolutely be triggered by this movie, because that scene was so, like, just made my skin just crawl. But yeah, there's some very shocking moments in this, really intense, but I do recommend it. That's The Queen of Black Magic. Really briefly, the other one that I saw, Impetigore. This is also a revenge story of sorts. It starts off with this woman who is a toll booth worker, and a man comes up to her and asks her if she's this person. She's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. The guy goes back to his car, gets a machete, tries to kill her. She survives. The man gets shot and dies. But before he dies, he mentions something about this village. So she does some digging, and it turns out that, like, she actually grew up in this village, but she was really, really young when she left, and she didn't remember anything. And her parents had died, so she couldn't really ask. So she and her best friend go to this village to figure out what's going on, and they see that it turns out that she was part of this really, really wealthy family, and that like the sort of mansion that she lives in this village is empty, but there's a curse. And what's happening to everyone in this village is every child born in this village is born without skin.
What?
Yeah. So every time there's a baby born, it has no skin.
That's fucked up and disgusting.
Yeah. So what this movie, it's sort of like a twist on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, this is like my opinion. I mean, the influence is there. Like, there's no way that Joko Anwar was not influenced by a Texas Chainsaw Massacre when you see this movie, but it's far from like a remake or a reimagining. It's just like he took certain aspects of that movie and put them into this and sort of created his own spin. And that's sort of what he does. Like, he did the remake of Satan's Slaves. And when you look at Satan's Slaves, Impetigore, and Queen of Black Magic, like, those movies, even though they were perhaps inspired by other movies, they're nowhere close to being the same. So you can't really say that his Satan's Slaves remake is actually a remake at all, because it's very wildly different. It just contains some of the same themes. And, you know, the connections to Texas Chainsaw in this are basically the village is sort of like the family, and they believe that they can remove the curse by removing the skin from the ancestor of this family, in this case the daughter who goes to the village. They want to remove her skin and turn it into leather, and you know, you'll have to watch it to see where it goes. But it's another movie that's very gory, and I liked it. I actually liked it quite a bit. So both of them are on Shudder, and I can definitely recommend both of them, Impetigore and The Queen of Black Magic. So check it out if you're looking for some really creepy, uneasy, disturbing Indonesian horror.
Wow. The only other thing that I watched which I won't really talk about too much because you already talked about it, and that's the Miike movie, As the Gods Will.
Ah, nice.
Which, goddamn, that is like hitting like the exact spot that I wanted, where it's like it's kind of fun and it's kind of fucked up and gross, but it's just like deranged fun. And I'm just absolutely loving just the overall tone of it, just everything about it. It's just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely reminiscent of Battle Royale, I think, tonally.
Yeah, but like the little games, and it's just really interesting to see the little games that they're playing.
Right.
And, you know, like the effects work is just so ridiculous. And I was really surprised because, like, I don't 100% remember like what we talked about, but I remember you telling me about, you know, the like red light, green light game with the guy spinning around and your head explodes, right? So I was thinking that there would kind of be like a lead up into that, but that's like immediate.
The movie opens with like half the kids already dead.
Yeah, and I was so confused because I'm like, what the wait, like did I accidentally hit? Like, am I halfway through the movie? Like, what the fuck happened?
I thought the same thing.
It's just I was so confused, and I just absolutely love it. It's just everything that I was hoping it to be, and kind of like what I was imagining in my head, and it was that, which is just wonderful when that works out.
Are you familiar with the Netflix series Alice in Borderland? Have you seen anything about that?
Mm-mm.
You should check that out. It's a Japanese series. It's on Netflix, and it's about a group of friends who all of a sudden Tokyo is completely empty, and they're the only people in Tokyo. And then it turns out that they've been transported somewhere or are involved in something that involves games. So they have to compete in these games and win. If you don't win, you die. And there's all these different games, and you earn days get added to your visa, as they call it. So if you win one of the games, you get three days added onto your visa before you have to play another game. It's really good.
It sounds interesting.
Yeah, the first season's out on Netflix. It's just a lot of fun. It's very similar to that movie. That's why I was thinking of it, because it involves games. Some of them are, you know, more are like kids games. Like there's like a hide and seek one that they have to do, and each episode pretty much involves a different game. But then obviously, as in, you know, just like any other manga or anime, it gets way more convoluted and complicated as it goes on. But it's quite good. I'm excited. They did greenlight the second season, so I'm excited for that.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that one out.
Let's talk about some VOD stuff. On February 2nd, we got Hellcat. Fight your demons, save your soul. This is about Katrina, who's a washed-up MMA fighter who must get back to the ring and fight in a tournament to save her son's life. But here's the thing: the tournament's in hell, and she'll have to fight her way past man, beasts, and demons that haunt her from within.
Yes.
So, there you go, Hellcat. We got Tribes on the Edge. Their survival could mean ours. So, let's hope that they survive. We got On Thin Ice. It's a documentary about the Olympic struggle for equality in sports. We got Fake Famous. This is on HBO. This is about influencers and some kind of like social experiment where like the filmmaker tries to create famous influencers.
Mm-hmm.
I see enough influencer stuff in my real life. I just don't need it. I don't need to see a documentary about it. We have First Blush. It's looks like a romantic comedy, maybe. We have 4x4. This one interests me. This is a Spanish film about a thief who decides that he wants to rob this car, but it turns out that the car is like has all these super high tech mechanisms in it, like defense mechanisms, and the car like it traps him inside, and he can't figure out a way to get out of the car.
Oh, that's right up your alley.
Yeah. So I'll definitely be checking this out. And apparently it's inspired by a true story, so I'm not exactly sure what happened with that true story. Yeah, definitely be checking that out though. We have Balloon Man coming out. This is a documentary about a former football player who becomes the first African American hot air balloon master.
Okay.
We have on the 4th, A Nightmare Wakes. That's going to be on Shudder, and that is it's about Mary Shelley. Actually, Mary Shelley descends into an opium-fueled fever dream while carrying on a torrid love affair with Percy Shelley. As she writes, the characters of her novel come to life and begin to plague the relationships with those closest to her as the shadow of her monster threatens to overcome her.
Ooh.
Yeah. So if you're...
stuff going on there.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of kind of surreal nightmare sequences in that one, so maybe it's worth a look. Again, that's on Shudder. February 5th, we have Bliss coming to Amazon Prime. This is a sci-fi movie with Owen Wilson and Selma Hayek. This is the one where they discover, I guess Owen Wilson discovers that he's like living in a simulation, so it's like a Matrix, type scenario.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We have also, very similarly, we have A Glitch in the Matrix coming out, which is the latest documentary from Rodney Asher. He's the guy who did Room 237 and The Nightmare. This one is about the simulation theory where, we're all living in a simulation. So, I'll probably check that out too. I like Rodney Asher. I think that his stuff is really rough around the edges, but I just like his subjects and stuff. Like, I was really fascinated by The Nightmare, the whole sleep paralysis thing.
Oh, yeah.
We also have The Reckoning. This is the Neil Marshall one that I saw it. I think it was Fantasia Fest. That's really, really bad. So very much avoid that one. We have Set Free Posse, which is a documentary about a Christian biker gang. We have we have Payback. This is a crime thriller. Son of the South. This is about a guy who is the grandson of a Klansman who, in the 1960s, joins the civil rights movement. We have Little Fish, starring Olivia Cooke and Jack O'Connell. Love is Unforgettable.
Mm-hmm.
This is takes place in a world where a pandemic has broken out, in which it causes the victims to lose all their memories.
Okay.
Didn't we see... There was a short film that had the exact same premise where there was some kind of pandemic where you lose your memory. I'm sure of it.
I don't know.
Chad Hartigan directed this. I'm not... I know that I'm not making that up. I know that there's...
Which has me interested. Like, that synopsis doesn't sound that great, but I've enjoyed Chad Hartigan movies in the past.
Is this an adaptation? Did Chad Hartigan perhaps direct a short film that had the same?
I don't think
so. Dude, I know for a fact that I saw a short film that had this exact same premise. I remember.
Well, apparently you don't remember enough.
No, I remember. I remember what happens in it. It's in this kind of dystopian future, and they are trying to. It's a couple, and they're trying to find each other. They lose each other, and they're trying to find each other. Oh my god! All right, well, I'm gonna have to figure this out because
you gotta figure it out, bud.
like I'm wondering if I wrote about it. I don't know if I.
Wait a second here. I think I'm on to this. I think I got something.
Embers.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes. Yep. That's what I was thinking of.
Oh man.
I had to look up Jason Ritter because I knew Jason Ritter was in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I couldn't remember Claire Kari. Yeah, I remember that movie.
Yeah, you wrote a review on it.
Yeah.
But it's the same premise, isn't it? You forget.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like it.
Interesting. Anyway, now that mystery's solved, I'm so glad.
Got it.
All right. Let's see. We also have Two of Us. This is a virtual theatrical release. Magnolia is putting that out. We have Reunion. This is a horror film. Every family has a legacy. We have The Right One. Yeah, of course, Reunion looks like another one of these, Ari Aster style things. We have The Right One. This is a romantic comedy from the producer of Joy and Invincible. Okay. We have The Wanting Mare. This is one that seems like you'd be into, this one.
This movie's finally coming out, huh?
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
I believe that is it. Pretty big number of titles coming out this week. So, quite a few that I'm interested in there. Blu-ray. Let's take a look at this. We have Mouse Hunt from 1997, Small Soldiers from 1998, Do the Right Thing from 89 is coming out on 4K. I would still recommend the Criterion version of this one, though, just for all of the bonus content that it contains. Let 'Em Go. This was from last year. We got Ladybugs from 1992, starring Rodney Dangerfield.
Mm-hmm.
Ladybugs. The Last Blockbuster, Host, which is available on Shudder. That's the one that takes place during the pandemic, and it's quite good. Dark Intruder from 1965, Yours, Mine, and Ours from 2005. The cover makes it look like the Cheaper by the Dozen cover, I think. There's another movie that has like the exact same cover, and I'm pretty sure it might be Cheaper by the Dozen. The Great Alligator from 1979. There's another version of Do the Right Thing that's coming out, which is a Target exclusive steelbook. Once again, I still recommend the Criterion version. Tesla from last year. Lassie, the 1994 version. Horror Noir, A History of Black Horror. That's again on Shudder. Shin Godzilla is coming out. There's like a new version of that one coming out.
Nice.
Oh, by the way, I don't know if you saw the Ultraman trailer, but the director of Shin Godzilla is making a live-action Ultraman movie, and it looks so awesome. I cannot wait.
I didn't hear anything about that.
I cannot. I retweeted it, so if you look at my Twitter, you'll see the link there. It's just like a teaser, so it's only like 35 seconds, but holy crap. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Let's see. A Man Called Adam from 1966, starring Sammy Davis Jr. The Norseman from 1978. Voyage into Space from 1970. Got Prime coming out from 2005. Prime. The 50 Shades trilogy is coming out. That's a Target exclusive as well.
Ooh.
La Casa I think that's from last year.
Wait, did you say that there was a Target exclusive?
I did.
You can only get it at Target.
Only at Target. Yes, I'm saying you can only get the 50 Shades trilogy at Target.
You gotta be kidding me.
Yep.
Oh, God.
There's a lot of these like retailer specific editions of things, and I don't mention them, but they happen a lot.
Wow.
Balloon Man, Tribes on the Edge, Concrete Savannah. These are all new releases coming out. To Tokyo from, I'm not sure when that came out. That's hitting Blu-ray this week, as well as First Blush and Sky Sharks.
What?
Yeah, sky sharks.
Sky sharks?
Yep.
Yeah.
Deep in the ice.
In
Deep in the ice of the Antarctic, a team of geologists uncover an old Nazi laboratory still intact where dark experiments had occurred. They modified sharks who were able to fly, and they had riders, shark riders.
What?
You know, one of these days, I wish that one of these crazy, like, you know, Sky Sharks movies had like a really big budget behind it, just to see how much better. Like, you know, if it had like real actors in it and a really big budget, effects budget and stuff, like just to see.
They should do that. Just once.
Yeah.
Just once.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. All right, anything on Criterion this week?
No, but I'm hoping for Sky Sharks at some point to be announced. Sky Shark.
Don't hold your breath on that one. All right, I think that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. You can send your questions and topics to podcast@filmpulse.net. You can follow us on Twitter @filmpulsenet and @filmpulsekevin. And if you have a minute, consider reviewing us on iTunes. We'd appreciate that very much. For Kevin Rakestraw, my name is Adam Patterson. We'll see you next week.